The stars outside the ship looked like frozen fire, endless and silent. The vast darkness of space was alive with the hum of the warp engines. Commander Lyra stood tall near the control panel, her glowing silver eyes reflecting the shifting blue light. She was calm, graceful, and proud, the finest warrior of the Zarathian race. Beside her stood Evan, a human pilot chosen to assist in the first combined human-alien warp test. Evan had trained for years for this mission, but nothing could prepare him for standing so close to her. She was unlike anyone he had ever met. Her armor shimmered like liquid metal, her voice soft but strong. When she spoke, it felt like the stars themselves listened. "Engage warp sequence," Lyra commanded. Her voice echoed in the chamber, calm but filled with energy. Evan nodded, his fingers trembling slightly as he pressed the ignition. The engines roared. The ship's hull glowed with streaks of white and blue. A low hum built into a thunder, and suddenly the universe stretched into a tunnel of light. Everything was perfect for a second. Then, without warning, the ship shuddered, the lights flickered red, alarms screamed, and the control room shook violently. Evan grabbed the rail, shouting, "Warp instability. Field collapsing." Lyra turned, her eyes narrowing. Her armor began to flicker, the silver surface rippling like water. A strange energy wave swept through her body. The hum grew louder, and in a flash of blinding light, her armor dissolved into mist, vanished completely, leaving her standing there, bare, glowing with alien energy. Evan froze, his heart hammering in shock. He wanted to look away, but the light coming from her skin was mesmerizing. It wasn't human light. It was alive, moving like threads of starlight across her body. Lyra didn't scream, didn't panic. Instead, she took one deep breath. Her eyes locked onto his. "Don't move," she whispered, her voice trembling but clear. The room was spinning, energy sparks flying across the floor. She looked at him again, her face pale but calm. "Kiss me, human," she said softly. Evan blinked, thinking he misheard her. "What?" he gasped, trying to hold his balance. "Commander, we need to stabilize the field." Her hand shot forward, grabbing his wrist. The contact burned with heat and electricity. "Listen," she said through clenched teeth. "My armor isn't metal. It's a living symbiotic nanite layer connected to my heartbeat. The warp pulse broke that link. If I don't restore it, I'll die." Evan's mind raced. "A kiss will fix that," he said, disbelief in his tone. Her eyes softened. The nanites respond to bioelectric emotion, to resonance, a human touch, a bond. It can restart the link. The ship tilted violently, sparks raining from the ceiling. Evan stumbled forward. His heart pounded as he looked at her. An alien commander, powerful and proud, now trembling and glowing with dying light. He could see the pain in her face, the desperation hidden behind her calm voice. "Please," she whispered, "before it's too late." Evan hesitated. His training screamed no. His heart whispered yes. The alarms wailed louder. The ship was spinning out of control. He took one deep breath and stepped closer. The blue light reflected in her eyes. For a moment, everything else disappeared. The alarms, the fear, the chaos. Her breathing slowed as he came near. "Don't be afraid," she murmured. The universe began with a touch, not a weapon. Evan raised his hand, his fingers trembling as he brushed against her cheek. It felt warm, almost human. The energy from her skin flowed into him. His heart felt like it was being pulled by a force older than time. Their eyes met, and for that single heartbeat, the world stood still. Lyra's lips parted slightly, her silver aura flickering. "Now," she whispered. The ship gave one final jolt. The lights burst into white, and the hum of the warp drive exploded into silence. Evan's mind filled with static, and in that moment of chaos, he leaned forward, closing the distance between them. The kiss was like touching a star. Heat, light, and life fused together. His vision blurred, but he could feel her heartbeat merging with his. The ship trembled once more, and then, peace. The alarms went quiet, the light faded, and the stars outside slowly came back into view. Lyra's body relaxed, her eyes fluttering closed. The nanite glow returned faintly around her shoulders, forming silver fragments of armor once more. She fell forward into Evan's arms, breathing softly. He held her, still stunned. his mind unable to process what just happened. The warp drive was silent now, floating between galaxies. Evan looked around, realizing they were no longer near Earth or any known star system. They had gone somewhere beyond, somewhere unknown. He whispered to himself, "Where are we?" Lyra stirred in his arms, her lips barely moving. "Alive," she whispered, "because of you." And outside, the stars seemed to bend, as if watching two souls who had just broken the laws of space and love together. The ship floated in deep silence, its lights dim and flickering like dying stars. Evan held Lyra in his arms, her breathing slow and shallow. Her skin glowed faintly, the same soft silver light that had filled the room moments ago. He could still feel the energy from the kiss inside his chest, pulsing like a second heartbeat. He laid her gently on the floor, his voice shaking. "Lyra, can you hear me?" Her eyes fluttered open, glowing brighter for a moment before fading again. She looked at him, weak but calm. "You did it, human," she whispered. "You restarted the resonance." Evan didn't understand. "Resonance?" he asked. Lyra tried to smile, her lips trembling. "My armor is alive. It listens to the rhythm of my heart. When the warp collapsed, my body went out of sync with time. That kiss, your touch, restored the pattern. For now, I'm stable." He stared at her, struggling to find words. The idea that a single kiss could save someone's life felt impossible. But nothing about this mission had been normal. Outside, the stars moved strangely, bending like water under invisible waves. Lyra sat up slowly, her silver hair falling over her shoulders. Her armor was returning, piece by piece, thin threads of light crawling across her skin. Evan turned away, trying to give her privacy, but she caught his wrist gently. "Don't look away, human," she said softly. "You already saw my truth." He hesitated, meeting her gaze. Her eyes shimmered like two small galaxies. "Where are we?" he asked. Lyra frowned. Glancing at the main console, the readings flickered and died. "Not in known space," she said. "The warp collapsed too early. We fell into a mirror pocket, a reflection of the universe, a place that shouldn't exist." The room vibrated again, faint but sharp. Evan looked around. "What's that?" Lyra's expression darkened. "Something is following us," she said. "Something born inside the warp field." He moved to the control screen, trying to reboot the navigation system. Static filled the display, showing distorted shapes floating outside the ship, like shadows made of starlight, shifting, watching, breathing. "They can't be real," he muttered. "They are," Lyra said quietly. "Echoes of us, created when our souls resonated." Evan turned toward her, confused. "Echoes?" She nodded slowly. "When you touched me, our energies merged. The warp field recorded that union. It made copies of us, reflections that exist between realities." He felt a chill down his spine. "And they're outside right now?" "Yes," she said. "And they are trying to replace us." The lights flickered again, and the shadowy figures moved closer, pressing against the transparent walls of the viewport. Their faces looked like blurred versions of Evan and Lyra, twisted by static. Evan's pulse quickened. "How do we stop them?" Lyra stood, her armor now fully formed, glowing brighter than before. "We can't stop them," she said. "We can only stay ahead of them. The resonance is our shield now." The ship shuddered as if something struck it from the outside. Alarms screamed again. Evan grabbed the controls. "They're hitting us." Lyra reached beside him, her hand glowing with energy. She pressed it against the console, and streams of light spread through the ship. The engines hummed faintly, like a heartbeat returning after death. Evan glanced at her. "You're doing this?" She nodded. "Our connection gives me access to your neural field. I can power the ship with your energy." He blinked, stunned. "My energy?" "Yes," she whispered. "Your emotions, your will, your humanity." He could feel it, the pull in his chest, the warmth spreading through the ship. It wasn't painful, just strange, like sharing his soul with someone else. Lyra's aura brightened, her strength returning. "Hold on," she said. "I'm opening the secondary warp channel." Evan gripped the seat, the ship's hull glowing brighter as space around them twisted again. The mirror figures screamed without sound, fading into light. And then, silence returned. Evan took a breath, his hands trembling. "Did we make it?" Lyra leaned against the console, breathing heavily. We escaped them, but not the mirror realm. The path home is still closed. He sighed, exhaustion flooding his body. So, we're still trapped? Lyra looked at him, her expression soft but unreadable. Trapped together, she said. There was a long silence between them, broken only by the hum of the engines. Evan stared at her, realizing how human her voice sounded now, how much emotion hid behind those alien eyes. Lyra turned away, her hand brushing the glass, staring at the strange stars outside. The universe wanted this, she whispered, a moment where two hearts from different worlds beat as one. Evan looked at her reflection in the glass and whispered back, then maybe that's how we'll find our way home. Outside, the stars pulsed once as if agreeing with him, and somewhere deep in the void, something unseen began to awaken. The stars outside the viewport burned like liquid fire, twisting and melting in slow waves. The ship floated in the mirror realm. Half real, half dream. Evan sat in the pilot's seat, his eyes fixed on the distorted sky. Lyra stood behind him, her silver armor glowing faintly. She looked strong again, but something about her aura felt different, warmer, alive in a new way. Evan turned toward her. You said our energies merged, he asked softly. Does that mean you can feel what I feel? Lyra nodded slowly, her voice quiet. Yes, human, I can feel your pulse, your fear, and something else, something you're hiding from yourself. He looked away, pretending to focus on the controls. I'm not hiding anything, he muttered. Her lips curved in a small smile. You are. You think I'm only a mission partner, but your heart beats faster every time I speak. Evan froze, his face turned red. That's just adrenaline, he said quickly. Lyra tilted her head, her silver eyes reflecting his face like mirrors. Then why does it not slow down when I'm quiet? Before he could answer, the ship trembled, the air grew cold, and the lights dimmed. A low hum echoed through the chamber, deeper than any sound he had ever heard. Lyra straightened instantly, her voice sharp. Something is entering our resonance field. Evan checked the scanners, but they showed nothing, just static and white noise. Suddenly, a bright flare appeared outside the window, a shape forming from light itself. It wasn't a ship, it wasn't a being, it was pure energy, shifting like smoke. Lyra stepped closer to the glass, her eyes wide. I know this presence, she whispered. It's ancient. The voice came not from the outside but inside their minds, soft yet infinite. You have crossed the threshold of resonance, it said. You touched the current that binds all life. Evan clutched his head, the voice echoing like thunder. Who are you? The being's form grew clearer, taking the shape of a tall figure made of stars and mist. I am the Watcher of Light, it said, the guardian of those who break the veil between heart and cosmos. Lyra bowed slightly, her tone respectful. We did not mean to trespass. The Watcher's glow flickered. You did not trespass, child of Zereth. You awakened something forbidden. The union of human emotion and Zerathian resonance is not meant to exist. Evan frowned. So that kiss, what did it really do? The Watcher turned its face toward him, eyes like galaxies. It linked you beyond flesh. You are now one current flowing through two bodies, one thought shared between two minds. Your existence distorts time. Evan felt his heart race. We didn't ask for this, he said. We were just trying to survive. The Watcher's voice softened. Survival always births the most powerful bonds, it said, but power demands balance. The mirror realm opened because of your connection. To close it, one of you must release the bond. Lyra's eyes darkened. Release it? Yes, said the Watcher. Break the resonance, or be consumed by it. The ship creaked as waves of light swept through the hull. Evan stumbled as images filled his head. Visions of Lyra's memories, her battles, her loneliness in the cold halls of command, her sorrow, hidden behind duty. Lyra gasped too, her hands shaking as human memories flooded her. Evan's childhood, his laughter, his pain. They both fell to their knees, connected through invisible light. The Watcher's voice echoed again. You see now what binds you. Two souls echoing across dimensions. Evan grabbed Lyra's hand, his voice trembling. If breaking it means losing her, I won't do it. Lyra looked at him, her eyes filled with tears for the first time. You fool. she whispered. You would destroy yourself for me. I already did, he said softly. The moment I kissed you. A brilliant light burst around them. The ship's controls glowed brighter than ever before. The Watcher raised its hand. Then your path is chosen. You are bound by resonance. But your love will reshape creation itself. The being faded into starlight. Leaving a trail of shimmering dust, Lyra stood slowly, her body trembling from the energy surge. She looked at Evan, her voice quiet but steady. We just became something the universe has never seen before. Evan took a deep breath, the silence heavy between them. Then let's make sure it remembers us, he said. Outside, the mirror stars flared into spirals of color, and the ship began to move on its own, drawn toward a radiant vortex at the edge of the void. Their journey through the unknown had only just begun. The ship drifted toward the glowing vortex, colors swirling like rivers of light. The view outside was breathtaking. Blue stars bending into gold spirals, waves of silver dust shimmering across the void. Evan sat at the control seat, his hands tight on the steering rods. Lyra stood beside him, her armor flickering between solid metal and liquid light. The vortex is calling to us, she said quietly. It reacts to our resonance. Evan frowned. Calling us where? To the origin, she whispered, where reflections are born. The ship trembled, energy readings spiking across the console. The closer they got, the more the light outside began to twist into familiar shapes. Faces, bodies, echoes. Evan froze when he saw one of them. It was him, another version of himself, floating outside the ship. His reflection smiled coldly, eyes glowing red. Lyra gasped as her own reflection appeared beside his. Her mirrored self looked darker, almost like a warrior made of shadow. Those are our echoes, she said, her voice trembling. The copies the warp created when we merged. Evan stared through the glass, his double raising a hand as if mocking him. If they're reflections, why do they look angry? Lyra's tone grew tense. Because we broke the balance. Every mirror wants to replace its source. The ship jolted violently as something struck the hull. The alarm screamed. Evan gripped the controls. They're attacking us. Lyra's hand glowed with silver light. Then they've chosen their fate. Outside, the mirror versions moved like ghosts, their bodies half made of starlight. They phased through the walls, appearing inside the ship in a burst of sparks. Evan's reflection landed first, identical but twisted. Its voice echoed like broken glass. You stole the light, human. It hissed. Now give it back. Lyra raised her arm, forming a blade of energy from her armor. Stay back, she shouted. Her reflection laughed, a low, haunting sound, and attacked. The two clashed in a storm of light and shadow, sparks flying. Evan turned to his double, who lunged at him with unnatural speed. The collision sent both crashing into a console. Evan swung wildly, punching his reflection, but the blow passed through like mist. Pain exploded in his chest as the echo countered, hitting him with pure energy. Lyra screamed his name, slashing her shadow self across the chest. The reflection shattered into shards of light, but reformed instantly. They can't be killed, she shouted. They feed on our link. Evan gasped, trying to stand. Then we break the link? Lyra shook her head fiercely. No, breaking it kills us both. The reflections circled them, their voices merging into one whisper. One must remain, one must fade. Evan looked at Lyra, his heart pounding. They want to become us. Yes, she said, they want to live in our place. The ship's lights flickered, the vortex outside spinning faster. The gravitational pull began to drag them in. Lyra turned toward the control core. There's one way to fight them, she said. We use the resonance itself. Evan staggered closer. How? Through unity, she said. We synchronize our hearts completely. She placed her hands on his chest, her eyes glowing like silver fire. Close your eyes, she whispered. Feel what I feel. He obeyed, breathing slowly. He felt her heartbeat merging with his again, a rhythm that pulsed like a song between galaxies. The reflections screamed, their shapes flickering, as their emotions aligned. Fear, love, hope. The ship burst with light. The echoes disintegrated into dust, their cries fading into silence. The vortex outside responded, widening, pulling them forward, Lyra collapsed against Evan, exhausted, her armor dimming. "We did it," she whispered. "The link fought them off." Evan held her tightly. "But the vortex, it's pulling us in." She smiled faintly. "Then maybe it wants to show us where it all began." The ship tilted forward, swallowed by the radiant storm. Light consumed everything, colors blending, space twisting into an endless spiral. Evan shouted her name, reaching for her hand, and she gripped his tightly, refusing to let go. The ship passed through the vortex, and for a moment, there was nothing but silence. Then came a blinding flash, followed by the sight of a new world, a place unlike anything they had seen before, oceans of light stretching across the sky, mountains floating like islands, time itself flowing like wind. Lyra opened her eyes slowly, her voice trembling. "This is the heart of resonance," she said. "The place where all emotions are born." Evan stared in awe. "Then this is what we were meant to find." Above them, a beam of golden light descended, forming into a gate made of stars. It pulsed once, as if recognizing them. The path ahead shimmered with promise and danger. Lyra looked at him, her expression soft but determined. "Whatever waits beyond that gate, we face it together." Evan nodded, gripping her hand. Together. The ship began to move forward again, guided not by engines but by their joined hearts. As they crossed the threshold, the stars themselves bowed, welcoming two souls who had already changed the fate of worlds. The golden gate opened with a deep hum that shook the air itself. Streams of light flowed around the ship, pulling it gently into a world made of color and sound. Evan shielded his eyes as the glow filled the cabin. Lyra stood beside him, her armor gleaming like liquid sunrise. They stepped onto solid ground for the first time since the warp jump. The surface beneath their feet felt alive, pulsing softly like the heartbeat of a living world. Above them hung floating rings of light, spinning in silence. Every breath smelled like ozone and rain. Evan looked around in awe. "Where are we?" Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. "This is not a planet. It's consciousness made real." A distant vibration rolled through the air, and a figure began to form in front of them, a tall shape of pure radiance. It was the Watcher of Light, brighter and calmer than before. Its voice surrounded them like music. "You crossed the mirror realm. You survived your reflections." Evan stepped forward. "You again," he said, his tone both angry and curious. "Why are we here? Why us?" The Watcher's light flickered softly. "Because humanity's spark has reached beyond its limits. The kiss that saved one life also awakened a power long hidden." Lyra frowned. "You speak in riddles." The Watcher's form tilted, almost like a nod. "Long ago, before stars were born, resonance existed, a bridge between emotion and energy. Your people lost that knowledge, but humans and Zarathians together have recreated it." Evan's heartbeat quickened. "You mean our connection?" "Yes," said the Watcher. "The union of logic and emotion, strength and compassion. It is the balance the cosmos has always sought." Lyra looked at Evan, her eyes glowing faintly. "Then it was never an accident." The Watcher's voice deepened. "Nothing born from love is an accident." Evan felt warmth spread through him, but the Watcher's next words chilled his soul. "However, the resonance cannot exist freely. It is too powerful. If left unchecked, it can unravel entire timelines." Lyra stepped forward, her tone sharp. "Then what do you want us to do?" "You must anchor it," the Watcher said. "One must remain in the heart of resonance, to keep balance. The other may return to your world." The silence that followed was heavy. Evan looked at her, realizing what that meant. "You mean one of us stays here forever?" The Watcher's light pulsed once. "Yes." Lyra turned toward him, her face calm, but her eyes filled with sorrow. "Evan, your world needs you. Humanity needs to know what happened here." He shook his head. "No, I'm not leaving you behind." "Don't be foolish," she said softly. "You were chosen to prove that human hearts can shape the stars. I was chosen to guard them." The ground beneath them rippled like water. The air grew thicker, glowing veins of light crawling along the surface. The resonance was growing unstable. The Watcher raised a hand. "Decide quickly." Evan reached for her. "There has to be another way." Lyra smiled sadly, touching his cheek. "There always is, but not this time." She leaned forward, pressing her forehead to his. Their breaths mingled. When you kissed me, I felt something I never knew existed. I felt humanity. And when I kissed you, he whispered, I found the universe. The Watcher's light surrounded them, the world trembling. Lyra stepped back, her body starting to glow brighter, her armor dissolved into mist again, her form turning into pure silver light. Lyra, Evan shouted, reaching out. She smiled through the light. Don't look back. Human, tell them we were here. Tell them love is not weakness. It is creation. Her body rose upward, merging with the golden rings above. The sky erupted into waves of light. The Watcher spoke softly. The balance is restored. Evan fell to his knees, tears mixing with the glow. The ship behind him hummed to life, drawn toward a new warp field. A voice echoed inside his mind. Hers, soft and eternal. I am not gone. I am every heartbeat in the stars. He stood slowly, his hand brushing the air where she had stood. The Watcher's form began to fade, leaving behind a single shard of light. It floated into his palm, warm and alive. Take this, the Watcher said, a fragment of her essence. When your world is ready, the resonance will return. The gate began to close, and the ship lifted on its own. Evan stepped inside, his heart heavy yet burning with purpose. As the warp engaged, he whispered into the endless light. I'll keep your promise, Lyra. I'll make them believe. The vortex swallowed the ship, carrying the last human who kissed a star, and the echoes of her voice followed him home. The warp tunnel spat the ship back into real space with a flash of blue fire. Alarms blinked weakly before going silent. Outside stretched the familiar map of human stars, the soft white glow of known constellations. For a long moment, Evan just sat there, staring into the darkness. His hands trembled on the controls, his heart still echoing her last words. Lyra was gone, yet her presence burned brighter than ever inside him. The small shard of light the Watcher had left pulsed gently in his palm. It felt alive, like a heartbeat made of starlight. When he closed his eyes, he could almost hear her whisper, I am every heartbeat in the stars. Evan guided the ship toward the nearest human relay station. The navigation data was damaged. Years could have passed, or only seconds. He didn't know. The ship's AI flickered back online, robotic and faint. Pilot Evan Gray detected. Welcome back. System anomaly. Temporal displacement. Calculation pending. Temporal displacement, he muttered. Great. He looked around the cockpit, everything scarred from light burns and warp fractures. Yet somehow, it all felt alive. Every surface shimmered faintly when he touched it. The metal almost responded. As he drifted through the outer edge of human territory, strange things began to happen. His thoughts flickered with static. Lights around him pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. When he concentrated, screens turned on without command. Energy flowed where there should have been none. He stared at his hands, faint silver veins glowing under his skin. Lyra, he whispered. You didn't leave, did you? The shard of light pulsed stronger, sending a soft vibration through the air, his mind filled with a warm hum. The same resonance they once shared, but now it was inside him, pure and alive. When his ship finally entered the range of the human fleet, multiple channels lit up. Unidentified craft, respond immediately. This is Commander Evan Gray, he answered, his voice rough, returning from experimental warp mission. A pause followed, then disbelief. Evan Gray is listed as missing for 3 years. 3 years. The words hit him like a blow. He had been gone for 3 years, yet to him it felt like only hours. The ship was surrounded by patrol drones, guided toward the docking platform. As it landed, a team of officers and scientists rushed forward, their faces full of shock. One of them, Dr. Mara, a researcher he knew, stepped closer. Evan, where's the Zarathian commander? The council declared her dead. He looked at her quietly. She's not dead, he said. She became light. They stared at him, unsure whether to believe. But then something unexpected happened. The shard in his hand floated upward on its own, spinning in midair, projecting a holographic wave across the hangar. The air shimmered, forming the faint outline of Lyra's figure, made entirely of light. Everyone gasped. Evan reached out instinctively, the hologram pulsing at his touch. Her voice filled the room, soft and distant. Humanity, Your hearts are stronger than your weapons. Remember that. The scientists froze, recording the phenomenon. The hologram faded after a few seconds, leaving only the echo of her words. Mara looked at him in awe. What was that? Evan smiled faintly. Her promise. They ran scans on him, and the results defied logic. His cells emitted a low-frequency energy identical to the resonance pattern they detected years ago in Zarathian cores. His mind could interact with technology on a subquantum level. His emotions triggered measurable power surges. Word spread fast. Governments wanted to study him. Militaries wanted to weaponize what he had become, but Evan refused them all. This isn't a weapon, he said again and again. It's her gift. At night, he sat by the observation window, watching the stars. Sometimes the shard glowed brighter, and he could feel her presence, like she was looking through his eyes, guiding him. One evening, he heard her voice again, not from the shard, but from within. The balance is shifting, she whispered. The resonance is awakening in others. He felt a chill. Others? Yes, her voice echoed. You were the first, but not the last. He stood slowly, staring at the stars. Realization struck him. What they had started wasn't over, it was only beginning. Outside the window, a nearby satellite suddenly flared to life, drawing symbols and light. Zarathian symbols of unity. The world would soon learn that love, emotion, and connection were no longer just feelings, they were power. Evan smiled softly, his reflection glowing faintly in the glass. I'll keep your promise, Lyra, he murmured. I'll teach them what it means to feel. The stars shimmered in reply, and far across the galaxy, something ancient stirred again. The resonance had not ended. It had simply found a new heart to call home. Months passed since Evan's return. Humanity called him the Resonant Man. Scientists could not explain him. Governments feared him, and the people saw him as a miracle. Everywhere he went, technology responded, machines hummed, lights flickered, hearts calmed. His very presence carried peace, yet he felt incomplete, as if half his soul still floated among the stars. Each night he stood before the observatory glass, the shard of light glowing softly in his palm. It pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat, sometimes whispering faint notes of her voice. Lyra's presence still lived inside it, but faintly now, like a fading echo, he would whisper to it, "I'm keeping my promise," and the shard would brighten. But something new was stirring across the galaxy. Space signals distorted, stars flickered strangely. A shadow was spreading, invisible yet powerful. It drained the energy of ships, colonies, even planets. Humans called it the null field, and no weapon could stop it. One night, while the fleet prepared for evacuation, the shard in Evan's hand glowed hotter than ever before. The light filled the room, and Lyra's voice echoed clear and strong. "It's begun," she said. "The void we created when we broke the mirror realm has awakened." Evan's chest tightened. "You mean it's our fault?" Her voice softened. "No, it's our responsibility." Outside, alarms rang. The sky above the human capital darkened. Stars vanished one by one, replaced by a vast black wave. The null field was approaching, erasing everything in its path. Commanders shouted orders. Ships scrambled to flee. Evan stood still, his mind already hearing the pulse of the universe, the same pulse that once connected him to her. He pressed the shard against his chest, whispering, "Lyra, if you can't hear me, come back to me." The shard flared like a newborn sun, blinding him. The air filled with silver wind, and for the first time since the warp event, she appeared again, not as a ghost, but as light given form. Her body shimmered in silver-white aura, her hair flowing like fire in zero gravity, her eyes soft, full of warmth. "Evan," she said gently, "you kept your promise." He stepped closer, his heart pounding. "You said you'd always be in the stars." "I was," she smiled. "But the stars are dying, and I couldn't stay away." They stood together as the null field spread across the sky, devouring light. Lyra turned toward it, her expression calm. "The resonance inside you is the only power strong enough to restore balance." Evan shook his head. "I can't do it alone." She touched his hand, her fingers glowing. "You never have to." The moment their palms met, the world changed. Energy surged between them, white and gold streams of light spiraling around. Their hearts synchronized again. the same rhythm that once stopped time inside the warp. The ground beneath them lifted as gravity itself obeyed their pulse. The null field stopped advancing, confused by the vibration. Lyra and Evan rose into the sky like twin suns, their light merging. Humanity. Her voice echoed across every channel. Remember this moment, for it is proof that connection is stronger than fear. Evan felt the energy building, so much that his body could barely contain it. Lyra, he gasped, if we release this, it will cost us both, she finished, her voice calm. But it will save them. He smiled faintly. Then let's finish what we started. Together they lifted their hands, and a brilliant wave exploded outward. The resonance spread across the stars, touching every living heart. The null field shattered like glass under sunlight. The sky returned, brighter than before. Every ship, every planet, every being felt a warmth inside. The spark of unity, the proof of love between two souls who defied time. When the light faded, only one figure remained on the ground. Evan knelt, his hands glowing faintly, the shard now gone. But he could feel her heartbeat within his own, not separate, but eternal. He whispered softly, "You didn't fade, did you?" A gentle wind brushed his face, and her voice came, softer than ever. "No, Evan, I became you." He looked up at the stars, now pulsing in gentle rhythm, each beat a silent echo of her name. Humanity would rebuild, stronger, wiser, and forever changed. From that day onward, people said the stars themselves had learned to breathe, and somewhere within that endless sky, a human and an alien heart still beat as one.